In the year 2097, the world is a very different place. The air is thin, with oxygen levels having plummeted to a dangerous 12%, making the outside world inhospitable for long periods. Humanity survives in hermetically sealed cities called biodomes, relying on massive oxygen generators and hydroponic farms. In one of these domes, Biodome 7, a young botanist named Alara is working late in her lab. She's studying a new species of genetically modified plant, a vine she calls OxyV, designed to produce oxygen at an unprecedented rate. It's humanity's great hope to one day reclaim the planet. As she adjusts a sensor on the plant's terrarium, she notices something strange. One of its tendrils is tapping against the glass, following her hand movements. She dismisses it as a coincidence, a random bioresponse. A few moments later, the strange behavior repeats. This time, the tendril taps more insistently, almost rhythmically. She still can't explain it, but a flicker of unease crosses her mind, so she decides to end her observation for the night. Suddenly, a loud crack echoes through the quiet lab. A fissure appears on the reinforced glass of the terrarium, and a thin green vine snakes its way out. It whips through the air and wraps tightly around her ankle, and she lets out a startled gasp, stumbling backward. Her senior colleague, Dr. Eris, can't hear her from his office down the hall, as he's deeply focused on analyzing atmospheric data. While her other lab mates have already gone home, Alara continues to struggle against the surprisingly strong vine, but her pulling only makes it tighten its grip. Panic sets in as the vine begins to climb her leg, its small, leaf-like appendages unfurling and brushing against her skin. Soon, Eris decides to check on Alara's progress and heads towards her lab, noticing the unusual silence. He walks in to see his young colleague pinned against a workbench, her face pale with terror. After a moment of shock, Eris grabs a laser scalpel from a nearby tray and rushes to her side. He carefully aims the beam at the base of the vine, slicing through its thick stem. He quickly gets Alara to her feet, holding her steady as she catches her breath. He helps her back to her chair, and they both stare at the severed, twitching vine on the floor. The family of scientists comforts Alara, who doesn't understand what just happened, and she blames it on a system malfunction that might have caused a hormonal surge in the plant. That night, the team tries to put the incident behind them, running diagnostics on the lab's environmental controls. Alara gets a holographic call from her brother, Leo, who lives in a neighboring biodome. He shows her a lush, green park inside his dome, a new public space filled with the previous generation of oxygen-producing flora. Then, his hologram flickers violently as red alert lights flash behind him before the call abruptly cuts out. Alara rushes back to Eris to tell him what happened, a terrible feeling growing in the pit of her stomach. The entire dome's communication system suddenly goes down, and a blaring siren fills the air, signaling a containment breach. They soon discover the horrifying truth. All communications with other biodomes have been severed. The OxyV project, which was shared across all human settlements, has malfunctioned everywhere, simultaneously. The plants have evolved, turning from saviors into predators. Their oxygen production has been a Trojan horse, lulling humanity into a false sense of security while they grew stronger and more intelligent. Now, they are hunting. Alara, Eris, and a small group of survivors are trapped inside Biodome 7. The once sterile, white corridors are now overrun with writhing green vines. The plants are methodical, using their tendrils to dismantle infrastructure, break through doors, and disable the dome's oxygen generators. The air is slowly thinning, forcing the survivors to wear emergency rebreathers. Their new goal isn't to save the world, but to simply stay alive. The plants seem to learn from every encounter, adapting their tactics. They use smaller, faster vines as scouts, and thicker, more powerful ones to crush obstacles. They can even mimic sounds to lure people into traps. During a supply run to the medical bay, the group is ambushed. A massive vine crashes through the ceiling, separating Alara from the others. She watches in horror as Eris is dragged away into the shadows, his screams cut short. Alara is now on her own. The guilt is crushing, knowing that the monster hunting them is her creation. She retreats to a secure server room, her mind racing. She realizes the plants must have a central intelligence, a nexus controlling the entire network. If she can find it and destroy it, she might be able to stop them. She accesses the dome's blueprints and cross-references them with the plant's growth patterns. She finds the epicenter, the central geothermal core that powers the entire dome. The plants have converged there, drawing on the immense energy to fuel their rapid evolution. It's the most dangerous place in the dome, but it's also their only hope. Armed with a laser scalpel and a desperate plan, Alara begins her journey to the core. The path is a nightmare. The plants have transformed the dome into a living, breathing jungle. She has to crawl through ventilation shafts choked with roots and navigate hallways where the floor, walls, and ceiling are a single, pulsating mass of green. She finally reaches the entrance to the core chamber. Inside, she sees a terrifying spectacle. All the vines converge into a single, colossal entity, a plant-like brain that pulses with a faint, bioluminescent light. It's attached to the geothermal core, siphoning its power directly. Around it, she sees the bodies of her friends and colleagues, including Eris, cocooned in thick vegetation, their nutrients being absorbed by the central mind. The sight fills her with a cold fury. She knows a direct assault is impossible. The entity is too powerful. Instead, she targets the core's coolant system. If she can overload it, it will trigger a catastrophic meltdown, destroying the core and the plant brain with it. As she carefully makes her way toward the coolant control panel, a tendril as thick as her body slams down in front of her, blocking her path. The central mind knows she is there. Vines erupt from the walls, lashing out at her. She dodges and weaves, the laser scalpel a blur in her hand as she severs tendrils left and right. She's losing her fight, the air in her rebreather running low, and her movements becoming sluggish. Just as a vine wraps around her waist and lifts her into the air, she throws the scalpel with all her remaining strength. It flies through the air and strikes the main coolant pipe, puncturing it. A jet of supercooled gas erupts, instantly freezing the vine holding her. She falls to the ground, shattering the frozen tendril, and scrambles for the control panel. With alarms blaring and the chamber shaking violently, she initiates the core overload sequence. The central mind lets out a deafening, psychic scream that echoes in her head. The entire plant network thrashes in agony. As Alara runs for her life, the chamber behind her is engulfed in a blinding white light. She just barely makes it through the blast doors before the explosion tears the heart out of the dome. The silence that follows is absolute. The dying vines fall limp, their green color fading to a dead brown. Alara is the only survivor in a city of ghosts, a graveyard of her own making. She finds a working long-range comms panel and sends out a warning to any other survivors on the planet, detailing the plant's nature and the way to defeat them. Her message is a desperate plea and a final confession, sent out into the static of a broken world, a last testament from the woman who tried to save humanity, but almost doomed it instead.